President Trump giving an update on the war with Iran. I want to bring in CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe to talk more about that. Ed, if you're there, I just want to get your initial thoughts on the substance of the speech.
There wasn't much new in this address, and even his suggestion of how much longer this could take, saying it'll end shortly and then suggesting 2 to 3 weeks, as he often does for many things he does. Not necessarily a firm commitment to an end date by any means. And that comparison of this 32-day conflict so far to wars that lasted several years, clearly designed to minimize and assuage the concerns of people who are concerned that this is going to continue for quite some time in an open-ended way and potentially begin to really cost Americans, at the gas pump and then elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, we finally got this date. Is it one that they're going to definitely stick to, do you think?
That's anyone's guess right now. Obviously, we don't have an off-ramp completely in the war in the Middle East. We do not have confirmation yet from the Chinese side that those are the dates, May 14th to 15th. It makes sense, though. It buys the United States a little bit more time, of course, to potentially wind the war down, because everybody I've spoken to say this summit between Xi and Trump will very unlikely happen while the war is still raging in the Middle East, because that pretty much would overshadow any deliverables that Xi Jinping could trumpet from that meeting with Trump, excuse the pun, and also the same for Donald Trump. He wants this to be a successful summit. I spoke with the former U.S. Commerce Secretary Carlos Gutierrez yesterday here on the sides of the Boao Forum. He was the Commerce Secretary during the Bush years. He was confident that the two leaders will send a positive signal to the global economy, that the leaders of the two biggest economies in the world can find some common ground and solidify that truce that was not necessarily guaranteed to be a lasting truce. So we'll have to see whether this meeting goes forward. We'll have to see over the next 3 weeks or so whether the war can wind down to allow them to have this meeting face to face.
We're going to go to Shanghai, Beijing, a number of other cities. We're going to meet with government, business leaders, economists. And the idea is to discuss really how we can copy what the Chinese did with maybe their guidance. So actually, the idea of this kind of cooperation is in our bones. We just got to wake it back up again. That's the purpose of the trip.
There's got to be some, Elon Musk type people that have money and a desire for innovation that would be interested in the kind of things that you're seeing.
Yeah, actually, you've talked about the Bering Strait Tunnel, and there are groups in China that are proposing that one way that this would work is that the Boring Company of Elon Musk actually take a leading role, for example, in that kind of project.
This is great. I love the idea. I'm jealous as hell. China. You're going to get to see the Great Wall of China? Maybe.
I mean, we're going to go to some technological centers.
I'm just saying, if you need somebody to carry your bags, I do lift weights.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, baby. It's episode 76 of The Whiners on April 2nd, 2026. Jeff Morgan and Ryan with you, as we always are on Thursday nights. And tonight, our special guest is Lawrence Freeman. He is an esteemed political and economic analyst. We've had him on before. This is a return visit. Very happy to have you back, Larry. And also, we are appointing you Ryan's official China advisor. If you want his... You're laughing, but I'm serious. We want his trip to be fruitful. We don't want him just wandering around aimlessly. So I know that you'll be up for it, won't you?
I've been there once. I'm going back again this summer.
Oh, wow.
All right. Fair enough. So maybe Ryan first, then Trump in May, and then you in the summer. 1, 2, 3. By the fall, every problem in the world should be solved, at least as it relates to U.S. and China, right?
That's quite a combination.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm having a Italian table wine tonight, Meluso Rosso. I got it at the wine store, which is called Wine Store. I've told you about this place before. And I'm wondering, Ryan, if you know what VDT stands for. I wrote it down.
VDT. No, my doctor never said I had that one, so I think I'm okay.
Vino da Tavola. Basically, it's a table wine. What it means is any kind of grape. They have all these regulations in Italy for wine, but for this, they can use any kind of grape from anywhere. It's usually just, an inexpensive table wine. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it isn't, but we're going to give it a shot tonight. My first couple of
eating pizza? You eating pizza or spaghetti or anything like that with it?
I'll decide after the show, but it says right there that it goes good with a Thursday night pizza, so maybe.
There you go.
How about you?
Well, doctor's order said I'm not supposed to drink, so I'm having a very small amount of this California Pinot Noir, which is it's pretty light, but it's tasty. It's called bread and butter, so that's sort of my approach to wine. Anyway, it's like bread and butter. You have to have it all the time. So,
what kind of doctor do you have? What kind of doctor do you have that tells you not to drink?
Yeah, well, the doctor, right?
Exactly. Are you joining us tonight, Larry?
Sure. I have a Pinotage from South Africa. And South Africa is my favorite wine in Africa. It's one of my favorites in the United States. It's various qualities, but always prepared well. And the story goes that South Africa wine was cut from the vines of Germany a long time ago, from the region that is most fruitful in wine in Germany, the Rheingau wine. And apparently they spliced in these vines generations ago to produce South African wine, which stands above all other wines in Africa.
And also above the German wines, because the German wines are not that good.
I like some of the German wines.
They're kind of light. I don't know, but not everything from Germany is bad, but sometimes their wine is.
There's a guy who's drinking bread and butter.
That's right, from California.
Actually, I have that bottle in my wine rack. I haven't had it yet, so I'll be very interested.
You'll enjoy it.
Mine or his or Larry's?
No, the Pinot Noir bread and butter. I have that.
Bread and butter. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Well,
but I'm not drinking.
Ryan, you're having your usual soft drink or water or some such beverage?
Morgan.
I mean, Morgan. Your name's Morgan.
Oh. I was looking at you right answer. Just water. Sorry. No fun over here.
No, you know how to have fun. No problem with that. Yeah. So Larry, you say, what kind of a doctor does he have? I think you're half serious without realizing it, because we interviewed Alex Reporterfy last week, who is a China expert also. He lives there now. And he was encouraging Ryan to sample the Chinese medical system. I don't know how familiar you are with it. And, I think he might have meant it as just to sort of document it, but I think Ryan should actually check himself in as a patient and give it a shot.
Or get a shot.
Yeah.
No, not for me. Not for me. No, his point was that China is just finished their 5-year plan, and they just had their 2 sessions, and that they want to become the, I guess, destination for medical tourism and whatnot beyond that future. So
I don't know the details, but I'm told that they have a very decent safety net for people who are not earning the highest income, and for people who work a portion of their lives, that it kicks in much earlier than ours, I believe, and provides a decent medical coverage as well. I don't know the details.
Well, I think that there are probably people in the Trump administration who are going to be needing a new health plan because, for one, you have today Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had the Army Chief of Staff resign. And that was late breaking news. And then, of course, we also heard about Pam Bondi. She's out, and they're floating. Right.
A lot of action in MAGA world today.
They're talking about maybe blaming Tulsi because they didn't like her testimony. Maybe ask her to get out of town. What do you think's going on, Larry, with MAGA world?
Well, I don't. It's obviously not good to be a woman in Trump's cabinet right now.
Wait a second. Is he a cross-dresser? No, that's no.
Yeah.
That's and
Gnome's
Gnome's
But
husband.
he's not. He's not in the cabinet.
That's true.
Yeah, Hegseth had to fire him. But yeah, no, it's ironic, isn't it? They're the ones that are catching the heat.
Well, I think. I mean, I wrote an article a few weeks ago. Is Trump really MAGA, or is he a neocon who posed as a MAGA to get elected? I really don't know that he did, but it raises the question because right now, all the policies that he spent decades attacking, he's now endorsing. And whatever way they try to dress up this conflict with Iran, it was clearly a neocon operation. I mean, it was just what Richard Pearl and Hofstadter and Kagan and all these guys put forth in the 1990s. And the handbook for Netanyahu was given to him by Richard Pearl, called A Clean Break. And that's what Netanyahu is doing. He's basically wants to control the entire area. And that no matter what Trump says, or he says something different all the time, it's pretty clear to everybody this was a regime change operation. There was never any evidence presented by the military or the intelligence community that an attack by Iran was imminent. There's no evidence that Iran had fissionable material for a nuclear weapon. There's no evidence they had delivery systems that could go several thousand kilometers, which was again repeated by the so-called Secretary of War the other day. So this was a preemptive unilateral attack, which is against the international law, preemptive attacks, allegedly because they were about to attack us. So it has all the earmarks of exactly what the neocons have been doing for decades in the Middle East, in Libya and Africa, Iraq, Afghanistan, and it never works. And this won't work either, because regime change can't work. And you can't decapitate a leadership and then expect to have a viable nation. So this is a big, according to MAGA people, I mean, this is a more than a no-no for Trump to turn against a policy that they thought he was committed to, which was no foreign interventions. So I think this is a big problem. I don't think MAGA is collapsing, but there's a lot of discussion on top of the economic situation. So I think Trump's in real trouble. I think clearly one of the reasons that he didn't want Bondi, he removed Bondi, is she was scheduled to testify on the 14th of April before a Republican-led oversight committee, Comer. And who knows what would have happened then. And then there's lots of stories about what she was really fired for. But I think part of it was clearly the Epstein case and what her testimony would reveal. And there was one very, I thought, cute headline that one of the media platforms came out with, which was Bondi Voyage.
Sounds like the New York Post.
But, you bring up Tulsi Gabbard, and, if you listen, I listened very closely to her testimony 2 weeks ago in Congress, and she would not say that they prepared the president for these alternatives, even though asymmetric warfare is pretty well known by Iran. So she did not really come across very credible to be the president's top intelligence advisor at that point. So I thought at that point she was clearly.
But that doesn't seem like a reason to fire her, because she was being loyal to the commander in chief. I mean, we don't like it, but I don't know why he would be upset with her.
Well, because I think she didn't say what he would want her to say. She didn't come across as a loyalist either. She came across entirely evasive. It's also possible that she is actually giving him advice that he doesn't agree with.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The written testimony that she submitted very specifically said that with the midnight hammer, everything was obliterated and that Iran was not constituting, a nuclear weapon.
I mean,
That was
even
in her.
her. No,
Yeah,
you're fine. I'm sorry.
that's very specific there, but she would not even answer questions about that difference in her public statement versus her written statement.
That's right.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the 2025 threat assessment framework from the CIA that she put out, basically saying that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. They have no projection to get nuclear weapons because of their fatwa. What was really interesting to me that I don't see a lot of pundits talking about was how they were separated. You had Tulsi and J.D. Vance in Washington when Operation Epic Fury started, and you had Trump, Susie Wilds, and Hegseth at Mar-a-Lago watching these drone strikes take place. So that to me shows that there's gap in leadership where they're not fully talking to each other or even in agreements with each other. How do you take that?
Well, I think that's true. Don't forget, J.D. Vance was outspoken over in the Trump campaign of 2016. I think he said something to the effect of anybody who votes for this guy is an idiot. And he was very much part of the no war, we don't need these wars any longer. And he took him a long time to even speak about the war in Iran. He did not speak up in the immediate days, maybe even a week longer. And when this was brought up to him that he was opposed to these long no-win wars, he said, well, don't forget, we've had other presidents who are idiots and they didn't know how to conduct short wars. This president does, which I thought was pretty lame. So I think there are divisions occurring everywhere in the MAGA world. And I think, though, that Trump, and I think I mentioned this in earlier discussions we had, I think Trump is actually suffering from physical, biological, and certainly mental problems at this point. He's not able to think clearly and coherently for long periods of time. And I think that is also something that's coming up. And then you have the polls, and polls are hard to make politics on. But if you were to listen to them, they're saying that young MAGA supporters are upset. They're saying that Hispanic MAGA supporters are upset, that some African-American MAGA supporters are upset. So I think there's a lot of trouble in MAGA land. And that's why I raised the question, was Trump always MAGA? Or was it always a neocon that just chose MAGA as a way of getting elected?
I mean, look at former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Nothing about lowering the cost of insurance, address jobs for Americans, education for children. There was literally no America first at all in anything that the speech last night presented. It was just war.
And prior to last night, that noted psychologist Alex Jones has lately been saying that Trump has lost his marbles and MAGA should ditch him and move on. So there are,
yeah,
and he of course is extremely stable mentally.
Well, I think that the larger question right now, if we just lift our head a little bit above the Trump and the MAGA question, and even the conflict in Iran, we're seeing a real collapse going on globally of the so-called ruling elite, rules-based order, Anglo-American establishment, and there are splits occurring everywhere. There are differences occurring, and you're seeing small realignments. I don't know how substantial they are at this point, but they are beginning where people are no longer looking at the elites, the Anglo-American tough guys in the same way they have in the past. And this gives an opportunity for the global South, for the BRICS, and it puts China in a very interesting position. I mean, you mentioned, Ryan, that they haven't agreed to this May 13th visit. They never officially agreed to the March 31st visit. They wait till the last minute. There was no actually official statement, even though everyone thought it was going to happen for the last visit. And they're very careful. They're very methodical. They're not going to rush into anything. They're not going to be forced into anything. So they're just taking this all in and figuring out what is the best way to move their country forward. And as a representative, the key country in the global South, could be a significant inflection point for potentially global changes in policy over the years ahead, even though it doesn't look like that right now.
I saw an interesting article in The Economist, and they're saying that some of the leaders in China, in terms of how long they want the war to last, some are, there's disagreement over how long they want it to last. And I guess the consensus is that if it's more than 2 weeks, it's going to hurt China, but they don't want it to last less than 2 weeks because it won't hurt the U.S. enough. Do you have any take on that?
Well, the Chinese will not respond to that kind of characterization. They will say that we want peaceful relations with the United States. We want to work together in the world. We want to change. Improve the standard of living of people in the world. I mean, what you're presenting there is quite Machiavellian, and I'm not sure that any representative of Chinese government would agree to have his thought process characterized in that way. I think they really would like to find a way to work with the United States that would not bring them into conflict. Now, the United States proposing for this year another $500 billion outside of Iran war they were going to ask for. That dwarfs what the Chinese budget is for military, which I think is probably $300 billion. So they're very concerned about all these military buildups that Trump is pursuing. And closest to their heart, which for them is non-negotiable, is the question of Taiwan. And I think as long as Trump doesn't step over himself on Taiwan, they would think they could probably deal with the situation in a reasonable way, especially since the Tariff Liberation Day, which we celebrated yesterday, today was Liberation Day, didn't really work out so well with the tariffs. I think they're in a stronger position right now than they have been recently.
Well, take a couple things that you're saying there about the Machiavellian element in what Jeff was showing, what you're talking about with Taiwan. There's something I want to ask you about that all of this makes me think about. Number one, listening to a discussion yesterday with Nima from Dialogue Works and Scott Ritter, he outlined a whole military perspective that essentially with the way that we've done everything, everybody's backing away from the United States. We don't have the armaments. Therefore, we have ceded that Pacific Asian waters to China. So we really can't do that much there, number one. China can do something to rebuild the Middle East. And I want, from your experience in Africa, your discussions with Chinese, I want you to address something about that. And the other thing I want you to address is a typical thing that is brought up about China, which is, they don't have all the bases all around the world, but they're controlling countries through debt and grabbing up all their raw materials. So they really are Machiavellian. They are imperial and thing, and so therefore they're really just like us. They're just as bad as we are.
Well, one thing I can tell you is they're not like us. That's for sure. You'll find that out when you go to China. It's a different world, even than the East in general. I mean, I know a lot of people go to Japan, Thailand, Vietnam, but you go to China, it's a different world that no one is prepared for because of the heavy propaganda that you're commenting on. The people are much different than that. The average person, which I always go out of my way to find, the whole atmosphere that exists in China is one of promotion of development. All over Beijing, you will find, to my annoyance, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Starbucks. I was telling them, why are you guys allowing this? We should put down a hard fist on some of these companies coming in. They say, no, it's part of capitalism. So they're really interested in economic growth, and with the proviso that they are the major political power, economic power in that region. And Taiwan is as I said, a non-starter for them. Even though the U.S. Congress is trying to get the current leadership in Taiwan to buy $40 billion of armaments from the United States, and there is a bill in Congress for $11 billion. I would suspect, and I think Trump knows this, that he's not going to touch that bill until after the summit, because I think if he did, the summit would not exist if he were to start funding selling armaments to Taiwan. But you look at what China did just recently. It's kind of forgotten now because of the war, but didn't they help negotiate a rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia
in 2023? Although the Saudis kind of pooped all over it, right? You can't really trust the Saudis that much, but yes, they did that.
They have a different approach. They go into an area that's in conflict. They don't believe in interfering. They don't believe in dictating. And the West hates this policy, just hates it, because all over Africa, that's what we've done for 60 years, is tell these countries what to do, what democracy is, the way we want it, how we want you to operate. The Chinese, they won't ever say that. They will give alternatives. They will provide solutions. They will look for common interest. They will look for economic development. I think the problem is the world doesn't take China, what they say, seriously. I know the West doesn't. When President Xi says, and he's been saying this now for 10 years, that we have a shared community of interest for mankind, he means it. And the Chinese.
How would you apply that to what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz? How is that affecting China, and how might the Chinese president assist with that situation?
Well, I'm sure that's not what they want to have. They don't want to have a conflict strangling the various countries that they work with. They would like to find a way to avoid that kind of conflict. Because they have a different approach than the West does. They don't want to. They're not interested. They don't believe that their country is going to rise to power based on military conflicts, which is why
be concrete. You've been to Africa. You've seen the Chinese in Africa. Haven't they, wheedled their way into controlling those countries?
Well, of course, that has been going on now since 2020 or earlier. The line that came out is that China is a colonial power in Africa because it's forcing these countries into debt and controlling them through their debt obligations. And then when they don't default on their debt, they will either seize the assets of the country or seize some other resources of the country. The problem with that analysis is it's completely wrong. First of all, there's been no default that the Chinese have seized on, and that have seized any asset whatsoever. There are defaults, and those defaults are renegotiated. And in fact, I was reading that the defaults in Africa to debt to China are no greater than default of other countries that have loans from China. So the idea that you would, though, have a loan that would be paid in a resource, well, I don't really understand what's wrong with that. The resource is in the ground. So if you're not going to use it, then it just lies there. It's no value. So if you're saying, I will use a resource I have to promote a policy that would lead to us getting a loan for infrastructure, then you're actually using that resource in the national interest of your country. So why is that wrong? But this is claimed as, well, the Chinese are not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. Well, no one does much out of the goodness of their heart anywhere in the West, but they do things that actually lead to progress. So that there's no, and I've gotten this question from friends of mine. I said, name me one default that has led to a seizure of assets. One, just one, in Africa. And there isn't, it has not been. And there's very close relations now. They continue, including now trading in local currency. So there have been slight moves out of the dollar. Ethiopia just transferred a whole bunch of their debt from dollars to yuan. And there's even now trading in local African currencies, which the United States will never do. The West refuses to accept the validity of any African currency. So the bond is getting stronger. And now, as we mentioned, I think before, you have 3 African countries that are members of the BRICS, and you have several more that are trading partners soon to be members of the BRICS. So this is going to be a monumental change because Africa is going to have 2.5 billion people. So with China looking for ways to continue its development, Africa is a natural ally for them. And they're going to do everything they can to keep it that way. And they've been really the only positive force in Africa as a outside political economic power, even though people like to attack China all the time. There's I won't name him, there's a former minister of a West African country who put it very succinctly. If you took China out of the picture of Africa, there would be no development. We wouldn't even see the development we have going on because the West would not lend money and still will not lend money for infrastructure, for manufacturing, and other investments that would lead to increasing the standard of living. So people can say all what they want about China, and I run up against it all the time. It's just not true. And you'll see that when you're there, though. You don't tire yourself up climbing the wall. It's really high.
I'm not sure we're going to get to the wall. We might get to the Yangtze River. So
well, you're going to be in Beijing, no?
We are. We're going to be in Beijing, and then there's some other nearby cities that you can take some high-speed trains to. We're going to actually go deep into China, hopefully to Chongqing, and then all the way to the south. You know, we have a project 2049 that we're talking about creating sort of as an initiative because you have the 2049 will be the year of the celebration of the People's Republic of China 100 years, right?
Yes.
And of course, Dr. Sun Yat-sen, who was the founder of the Republic of China, was very closely tied to the American system of economics. And I have said for some time that the Chinese appear to behave more like the Americans did in the previous time, like with Lincoln and the railroads, than we do now.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting about that. I just published 2 or 3 days ago an article that Franklin Delano Roosevelt, when he set up the Bretton Woods, the most important thing to him was the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the IDRB. And that was something he had been thinking about as part of his grand design, even prior to the United States entering the war. If you read the correspondence, which I cite in my article, people like Henry Dexter White, Morgan Thor Wells, and others, they were saying we need to create this bank facility, which we call the World Bank today, to lend long-term credit to help the developing sector nations industrialize. That's what they said. And they said this will raise the standard of living of poor people around the world, and this is the best way to ensure peace and security. The largest delegation at the Bretton Woods in July of 1944, outside the U.S., was China, had 33 delegates. And they were in constant discussion with Roosevelt's people during the conference. And toward the end of the conference, they had various meetings. And shortly after the conference, they met with Zhou Enlai, who's the top Communist Party, one of the top Communist Party officials, to discuss their policy for the future. And Zhou Enlai said, yes, we need money, we need capital for development. So if you think back 80 years, 82 years, we actually did have an American president who understood how to work with other countries for the benefit of all. So the idea of that there's a shared common interest to humanity, to mankind, is partly American. One of the things also that came out in some of the research was the role of Sun Yat-sen, who believed in state-led development, state-led industrialization, that the state has a role to play in developing the economy, which is an American system idea. And this actually endeared Sun Yat-sen to some of the American policies for obvious reasons. So there is a tradition in China that's coherent with the better traditions in the United States, which are completely opposite of what we have now. I mean, Roosevelt had the Inter-African Development Bank, which was to help Latin American countries develop. And think of what Trump's policy here is in terms of Latin America, which is regime change. So we've come to a very low point, but I guess the good news is if you're an optimist, we can find a way to rise back up to that point sometime in the near future. We would hope with a change in global policy, we can get the United States functioning again like it did several decades ago.
Step one is Ryan Milton in May in China. So I buy what you're saying about, China not, basically being conflict averse, but the question still remains, how can they help resolve what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz? We have a clip from Trump's address last night. Here's what our very sharp president said about the Strait of Hormuz.
States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz Strait and won't be taking any in the future. We don't need it. We haven't needed it, and we don't need it. We've beaten and completely decimated Iran. They are decimated, both militarily and economically and in every other way. And the countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily. We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on. So to those countries that can't get fuel, many of which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, we had to do it ourselves. I have a suggestion. Number one, buy oil from the United States of America. We have plenty. We have so much. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before. Should have done it with us, as we asked. Go to the Strait and just take it, protect it, use it for yourselves. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done, so it should be easy. And in any event, when this conflict is over, the Strait will open up naturally. It'll just open up naturally.
Just take it.
Well, the Europeans and any serious military analyst would know, if you start having more foreign ships, like he's suggesting, just take it, go into the straits, which is so narrow, and even as more narrow than the straits are the actual lanes that can contain large ships. Mm-hmm. You'll have more conflict if you start sending in more military ships from different countries. Don't forget, Iran lies on part of the Belt and Road, and it goes into the interior of the Eurasian, Russian, European continent. So the Chinese have all kinds of relations going on with the countries along the Belt and Road and the Maritime Road that intersect Iran. And they're going to do everything they can to not only protect that, but to nurture it. And unfortunately, we're not going to know what they discussed behind the scenes, but they already have a plan which coheres with the Belt and Road and the Maritime Road, that they are looking towards finding a way to bring countries together and to promote some economic progress. So Iran is extremely important to them, but they're going to deal with the problem in an entirely different way. And most of the U.S. analysis on China, what they're doing, is very poor. They have really no insight. And you saw that in Trump's last meeting with Xi, where he thought he was going to run all over Xi and threaten him and bully him and try to manipulate him over tariff agreements. And it didn't. All the Chinese says, well, if you do that, we're not going to give you critical minerals. And then Trump changed and lowered the tariff. So they're much different negotiators. They're very thoughtful. They plan. They don't like to say things that are outrageous. They like to proceed in a more methodical, careful way, which is the opposite of what we're seeing with our president. But frankly, if anybody took him seriously and started sending ships into the Straits of Hormuz, it would actually create more chaos and more casualties. So it's good that people are not listening to him.
I'm laughing because, as you're saying, they have these different styles. I'm thinking of how Trump last night said he was going to, not he, but we, the U.S. is going to bomb Iran into the Stone Ages. Listen to this.
Yeah.
We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong.
Imagine talking about another nation that's been around for thousands of years in that form. It's non-American. There's nothing American about what Trump is saying right now.
Yeah, there's some back and forth between, I guess, the pro-peace or anti-war movements of what really instigated this war. A lot of it is either Trump had the agency, there's other reasons, or it's primarily the Israeli government that's pulling the strings here. What I think is missing is this element of China, where you have, even going back to when we kidnapped Maduro, the delegation that was sent by the Chinese president the day before to conduct these 20 plus contract agreements, and then we kidnapped Maduro. And now you have what's going on the Strait of Hormuz, where the only ships that are allowed to pass are, Iran. You prove to Iran that you're purchasing in yuan and in Chinese currency. So this kind of this reoccurring player of China is front and center. Not to mention, I think the intelligence agencies in America were clutching their pearls. The fact that China and Russia were supplying intelligence to Iran. What is your thoughts on that? The two kind of conflicting narratives of what really drove the conflict that we see today. Is it, primarily Israeli control, or is it something deeper than that?
Well, I think what you're saying, Morgan, I thought about it as well, is that China is part of the equation. There's no question about it. In Venezuela, it was clearly the case. And in Iran, it's clearly the case as well. But as I mentioned earlier, with the Belt and Road and China's development policy for that whole region of the world, going from the Caspian Sea north into the Caucasus. So this is definitely part of the equation that dominates the thinking in the United States. In fact, I think it was in the last strategic analysis paper of 2025 that they put out, they said that China, not Russia, is our number one enemy, is our number one threat. And the motivation for the Defense Department to want $1.5 trillion budget is China. We have to prepare for future wars against China. We have to prepare for the defense of Taiwan. So I think you're absolutely right. China is part of all the equations that Trump thinks about. But when you look at the question of Israel, it brings to mind Trump's policy towards Nigeria, where we're allegedly concerned about the Nigerian government supporting a claim of genocide against Christians. And then you see in South Africa, where allegedly the government is carrying out a genocide against white farmers. And then you look at the question of Israel, the so-called end times. This is a large part of Trump's base. The evangelical, I don't want to insult the religion.
Christian Zionists. You can say Christian Zionists. So go ahead and say that.
I was going to say something much worse than that.
Christian fundamentalists. Yeah.
Uh-oh, the wine is starting to take its effect. Go ahead, Larry. Go nuts.
No,
Go nuts.
I don't. I still have
Rip off the Band-Aid.
I'm still in touch with people in various governments. Every once in a while, I speak too much, but these people, as we've now identified them, they have a very big effect on Trump. They are a major part of his base. So when you think about what is going on in Israel, that Israel would control the entire area, and this is written in the Bible, and then you think about the poor. I mean, it wasn't just poor; it was misintelligence that Trump and various senators and congressmen based their analysis that there was genocide against Christians in Nigeria. More Muslims die, are killed by Boko Haram than Christians. More mosques have been burned. More Muslim cities have been destroyed. More Muslims have been kidnapped. But they use little bits of false intelligence and they piece together a picture. And you saw how impotent it was. They fired 16 Tomahawk missiles in a region in Nigeria, which is not where Boko Haram was and not where ISIS was. It's where a minor militia was. They did no damage. 4 of the Tomahawks didn't go off. So 16 were fired, 12 went off, and they found them in fields out in the middle of nowhere. And that was the response. So it was probably was an impotent agreement by Trump not to push it too far. Now, keep in mind all the Tomahawks we're using in this attack on Iran. Each Tomahawk costs about $4 million. So you can go through $100 million in no time at all if each weapon is $4 million. And what is it accomplishing? So I think a lot of it has to do with his base, which is now, on one hand, he appeases his base, especially the religious, conservative, Zionist crowd, but which is not what I was going to say. But he also then goes against his base by the kind of conflict. He has a mental problem. And I'll throw this out. This is quite possible. I'm not saying it's true, but it's quite possible that after he solved 25 wars in the world, some of which never happened, but he was solving them anyway, he may have said, this is not worth it for me. I don't really want to do this, and I didn't get the Peace Award, so now I'm going to do what I really wanted to do and start kidnapping people and go to war. So
Trump.
Well, it could be also in terms of he's got to start a war to then close off the war and get peace, right? Mm-hmm. It could be something like that. But also, it is the case
that the 9th war he brings peace to.
Right.
Yeah, I would say his not only his base, but the people that he's surrounding himself with. You have Mark Levin, Pete Hegseth. We even have Mike Johnson, who is the Speaker of the House, who flies a Christian nationalist flag right outside of his office every single day. These are the people that ultimately have the ear of the president. And I think I heard someone's analysis that said that Trump's he's not engaging with the public in a sense where, the actual MAGA movement, resided, where they were talking about anti-war. He's surrounding himself with these people that are boosting him, like Lindsey Graham, that are all boosting him and telling him that this is great, even kind of hoodwinking him to thinking that this engagement was going to be very, very short and successful, even though here we are over a month later. So I think that is very alarming. I do want to ask another question. So China has come out through this aggression. You have U.S. and Israel both taking strikes on Iran, but you have Israel under the cover of the media focusing on Iran, leveling Lebanon, southern Lebanon. And you have China coming out and saying that they are going to stand up against Israel that Lebanon cannot become another Gaza. What is your analysis on that? I guess, for lack of better terms, I get a bit irritated at the fact that now Gaza is this kind of relic of destruction that we're not going to emulate again, but we let it happen, and we're continuing to let it happen. So what kind of makes Lebanon different that you think China will actually have kind of a bite and actually confront Israel with this?
Well, I think China is going to be very cautious about any kind of military intervention. I mean, think about how few interventions they have outside of areas around China. They've had conflicts in various neighboring nations from time to time. But I don't see China is going to aggressively, militarily get involved in this area of the world. I think they realize that this is not an area that you can come out successful in. And they don't want to break their longstanding policy of being not interfering and not militarily challenging the West in these peripheral areas. They're willing to deal with the West in areas that are of vital interest to them, such as we've mentioned, Taiwan and some of the other and the straits down there. But I think they're going to be reluctant to make any kind of major military intervention. And of course, the UN is completely impotent at this point. And what you're saying is true. It's already a crime against humanity, against all of humanity, what happened in Gaza. And there's probably 100,000 or more people who were killed, and it was genocide. And the Israeli people will take them generations for Israel to become a respected nation again. They are now completely an outlaw nation, a rogue nation.
Or are they even going to exist after this? Because you have Hezbollah's back in the fight. They have not been defeated. You've had Hamas. You've had the Houthis come in. You have American bases, Oracle based here in Austin. They just laid off 30,000 people. One of their big data centers in American-controlled territory in the Middle East was just attacked and destroyed today. Spain is kicking the U.S. out of operations there so that we can't use their space. Italy said we can't use it. So is Israel going to even exist after this is all done, in your view?
Well, it may exist in a different form.
Here's Sarah Lard asking that question with her usual tact and warmth. Ask Freeman if he thinks Israel will survive this war. It's Mr. Freeman to you, Sarah. Go ahead, Mr. Freeman.
I think they may survive, but it's going to be a different nation. I mean, if you talk to some people really supporters of Israel, Zionist supporters of Israel, they'll say Israel is buying themselves time by pushing back Hezbollah, by defeating Hamas. But then the question is, are they really buying themselves time, or are they really guaranteeing their own destruction? Because the more they do this, the more the people in that region of the world will never forgive and never forget, nor should they, what Israel has done. So the idea, it's a similar problem that Trump has in his thinking. It's hard to destroy a nation, and it's hard to destroy a people by simply killing them and bombing them. Like, you can't defeat.
Vietnam was an example of that. That didn't work there. And it
never worked, and it never will work, because nations are made of people. They're real institutions created by mankind. They're not natural. Mankind created them on its best insights into the laws of the universe and how law should function. So the idea that you're going to destroy a nation by killing it, how do you kill an idea? So you think the Iranians that there'll be no Iranians left who will know how to make fissionable material or enriched uranium? Is it really possible to wipe that idea out of every single Iranian's head? No, it's not. So these efforts are designed to fail. They're against the laws of the universe. They will always fail.
Well, Larry, they didn't. The Iranians had already offered, apparently, before this conflict, last 30 days started. They already offered to give up all of their, 467 kilograms of uranium hexafluoride.
Well, I didn't know that I thought they were agreed to only reach a certain level of enrichment.
It's at 60%. So what they had wasn't destroyed. They said they would get rid of it. Trump last night said our goal is to make sure that they never have a bomb. So they already offered that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
what they were looking for, I think, is approximately 20% enrichment, which can be used for energy production. And then and they have a right to that. Not only do they have a right to the energy, even though they're oil rich, but they have a right to the technology of fission, because that's a jumping stone for fusion. So to tell for the West to say, no, you can't have these technologies, you're not allowed to have them. And that's what you're saying is true. They agreed not to proceed to the higher enrichment or to, they were sending their material at one point to Russia for verification. And one of the Obama agreements, they were sending their material out of the country to be kept by a third country. At least that's what I seem to remember. So the idea that they were preparing missiles with enriched uranium that could be used for a bomb never existed. And it never existed, but it becomes a rallying cry for a whole bunch of misinformed and neocon Americans, because this is what the neocons wanted 40 years ago or more. Don't forget, Rabin has 2 agreements with the Oslo Accords for peace with Arafat. And Rabin hated Arafat. He hated him. He despised him. He was his mortal enemy. Rabin was in the army for 30 years. But to become a warrior for peace, he had to shake Arafat's hand, which was very difficult for him. And then they signed 2 accords. Rabin is killed by an anarchist who's in the orbit of the Likud party, Sharon, who hated Rabin in the 1990s. And then after that, the neocons then hand over to Netanyahu in 96 or 97, the clean break document for how to overthrow Iraq, overthrow Syria, and resume control of what they call the realm for Israel. And that all happened within a few short years. And that begins a whole process in the Middle East, which included the overthrow of Iraq, which the neocons engineered. So this is the policy that Trump has adopted, which has nothing to do with what he campaigned for, and nothing to do with the future of the United States. And that's why whenever I can, I try to cite what Roosevelt did, because he was a statesman that dealt with different periods, different countries, but nevertheless dealt with adversaries and was able to move the world to a better place and move the United States to a better place. And he was not a pacifist, but he knew when to fight and when to carry out negotiations. And we don't have anything like that right now. I mean, take a guy like Ted Cruz. He's one of these guys who pumps in this stuff about genocide against Christians and genocide against farmers in South Africa. So there's a whole bunch of these, what I would nut jobs who are out there who are feeding Trump information, and Trump, for his own reasons, accepts it. But he is definitely not getting the support that he was in his first year. In fact, all the polls right now, if they can be believed, all show him in very deep trouble. And you have now a splitting up of the Republican Party. You're aware that the Senate made a deal with Trump backed. The House rejected the deal, which Trump supported Johnson on. Then they went back and Trump said, no, I support the two houses coming together. We'll fund the ICE later on. And then Johnson couldn't get agreement on it today because there are too many people in the Republican Party who won't agree with it. So this is part of what I see as a collapse of the rules-based order, of the hegemony of the United States war party. This is all coming apart, and this gives potential for something positive to come in its place. And that's.
Larry, you mentioned a new article earlier. Is that on your Substack?
It's on Substack, and it's also on my website. I think it's Franklin Roosevelt and Xi Jinping would have agreed to develop the global South. And I go through these discussions.
We've been flashing it throughout our chat, but let's do it again now to make sure people can find your work. There's the Substack, lawrencefreeman.substack.com. And
there's your webpage.
And there's your website. There. Very easy to remember, Lawrence Freeman, Africa, and the world.com. I need oxygen just to get through that.
And I put, okay. Well, there's reasons I did that, but we can discuss them some other time. But I ended.
And X also, right?
I ended with the case of Ethiopia, because this was another example of the United States in its better time. The British, don't forget, Ethiopia was never conquered. So it was the only independent, truly independent sovereign country. It was run by a monarch, his Emperor Haile Selassie, but they never were conquered. So they were there were 4 African countries at the conference, but they were independent sub-Saharan African country at Bretton Woods. The British had nothing to do with them, but the Ethiopians wanted to reorganize the currency because they had been taken over by the British for a 5-year invasion, which they finally kicked them out in 1941. The British wanted them to tie the Ethiopian pound to the British sterling and have it controlled by a British financial control board in London. And the Ethiopians were, they weren't going to do it. They went privately to Roosevelt's people. And what they did behind the back of the British is they formed a dollar-based Ethiopian currency, and they printed up dollars, which no one knew about, which they could give to the Ethiopians. The British said that this was a great mistake, that they called the developing countries who were there a bunch of monkeys who were messing up the world, and they attacked the Ethiopians directly. And the Americans chuckled and said, well, now you see what the British are all about. So I put that in as one example of you have a direct involvement of Roosevelt, Morgenthau, White, and others helping put a independent country on the right course for economic development. And of course, that country, 80 years later, builds the biggest dam in Africa.
So
now building
Larry, you've said a lot of things about China, what could be done. Obviously, we don't have an end yet to this situation, but before we end here for the night, do you have a final, maybe a forecast about what's going to happen here in the midterm elections or internationally on these matters? And then,
well, if you, I think the Democrats, unless they deliberately or otherwise mess up the situation, tactically, I think they're in an advantageous position for, all they have to do is flip 3 seats. So
right.
I think that they're in a position that they can do that, whether it's a tsunami or an extinction event, as
who
Jeffrey
knows?
said. But I think they can take 3 seats in the House, which will then change the whole balance. I would only report this because it's so odd that it couldn't, who knows what it means. But you remember James Carville, who got Clinton elected. So he came out with a forecast 3 weeks ago, and he said that Trump was going to resign after the midterms. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, and I think James is not as good as he used to be. But I found it interesting that he even put that out publicly at that time. But globally, it's what I mentioned before. We're in the worst crisis we've been in certainly since World War II. Not simply because people are being killed in Iran, and that itself is a crime as well as what's been done to Palestine. But the leadership, the so-called ruling leadership of the world, is now exposed. It hasn't been changed. It's not like the Europeans are putting forth great policy, but the seams and the cracks are there. It's coming apart. And this is the time that we should double our efforts to bring something new and better in.
Well, that's good. That's good. What I'm going to do when I go to China is I'm going to take a review of all of your websites and all of your writings on Africa and maybe some of the things you've said on China and go ask them to help us here get a sane alternative to these non-ending wars for the United States. Get ourselves out of the Middle East, and maybe we should become a part of the Belt and Road Initiative. So
we should.
Thank you, Larry.
They offered it to Obama, and Obama said no.
Nope.
She said become part of it.
Yep.
But make sure when you're there, talk to the Chinese people.
Oh, we will. We definitely will.
Just talk to the average person. Meet them in the street, meet them in the parks, her in the park. Talk to them. They're going to want to take selfies with you. They're going to. It's because
I'm bald. It's because I'm bald. Tall, bald people probably.
Wear your cap. No, they won't see that. But
You're not bald. You just have a slightly receding hairline.
Slightly. All right, Larry, thank you very much for your time and
Yes.
your words. It's always very useful to speak with you. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank
All the
you.
best.
It was a pleasure.
Enjoy
Okay.
your wine.
When you going, Brian?
April 24th.
April 24th. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good. So then you give us a report back in May.
Oh yeah. We're talking to the consulate tomorrow for some more of our planning. So
Excellent.
we got a lot going on. Thank you.
You'll have a great time.
All right.
All right.
Have
See
a
you
good
again.
evening, everybody. Thanks for
And
joining
Morgan,
us.
you have a couple of things in the works.
do
Will you
as
tell
well.
us about that, please?
Yes. So first I want to say I will be doing a new show with Ellen Jimerson. I don't know if you guys remember her.
Of
We had her
course.
on when we did it was with Kevin. We talked about immigration and different types of visas, and she did the documentary, The Second Cooler. But this podcast is going to go into, the trans movement, what has really taken place there. You'll be interviewing detransition people, attorneys, doctors, and extending the hand to people who the media is silencing because the story doesn't fit the narrative that we want to be told about, this kind of culture. This coming up Tuesday, we'll have on a person called Erin Kimberly, excuse me. And this woman transitioned and now detransitioned, and now is kind of speaking about what happened in her case, and also the culture within the trans movement pertaining to sexual assault. So that'll be very interesting if you guys are interested. And I also want to plug a few more events. Our friend of the show, Jose Vega, managed to secure a debate with the incumbent and his running mate, Michael. He's not his running mate, but the person who's also running in the race, Michael Blake. That'll be next Tuesday as well at 6. And that's virtual if you guys want to watch that.
Well, hold it. How is he going to interrupt and scream at Richie Torres if he's already up on the stage? Who's going to do this? Who's going to handle that role?
It's going to be definitely a little more tamed than what we're used to of Jose.
Is this in front of a live audience and online, or both, or what? Which is it?
It's only online, so it's not in person. And we have Richie Torres.
They won't be in the same place. They'll each be in different locations, like we are.
They'll each be in different locations. Eventually, they'll have one that'll all be together, but right now it's going to be virtual. And as of right now, we have Richie Torres is not, I think, officially signed up to do it, but by all accounts he should, because they're on the 2-week recess where they're supposed to be doing work in their district.
Was he wearing a yarmulke there just now, Richie Torres? Look at him.
No, that's his hair.
That's a great way to show your support for Israel.
No, I think.
Did you just say Richie Torres is not confirmed?
No, so they've sent the official invite numerous different ways, and Richie Torres' team won't respond. But these are
you got this flyer saying he's going to debate him, but he hasn't actually.
He's going. He should be there. He by all accounts he should be there. But the representative has not been responding to the request of this one New York City action group.
Hey, I got a question about this. I know, Jeff, that you have a show on Tuesday night, but the question is, can we do 2 streams to this channel, that debate and your show simultaneously, because that is a Tuesday, so that people can watch it? I'm bringing that up just because a chair wanted to know if we'll be broadcasting that debate.
It's next Tuesday at 6.
So it's
That's
supposed to be
Eastern.
6 to 7.
Actually, what time is your show? It's at 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do it then.
I don't know what you mean by simultaneously, but I'm
Oh,
interested.
well, no, it
Let's
wouldn't
talk
be
about it.
simultaneously. I'm in a different time zone, so that's why I was
It's
thinking.
a little
that.
complicated, but we can look into that. Sure, that would be interesting.
That might
I'm
be a good
confused
idea.
by what Morgan's saying. You're telling me that you've got a flyer here with Richie Torres having a debate, but Richie Torres has not agreed to do it. Do I understand this?
Yes. Well, he should, by all accounts, be accepting of it, because this is a public forum debate between the Congressional District of New York 15, and it's an independent body that's putting it on, and they sent him numerous requests.
Pressuring him.
He should. All right. I don't know. Well, I don't know if you should be publishing a flyer saying he's going to be there when he hasn't even agreed to it. But
Well, I don't think it says he's going to be there. It doesn't say. It just says virtual debate. Right. He should be there. Maybe it's a pressure
him into doing it. All right. Well, he should. I agree. He should do it. But I don't get that you're saying he's going to do it when he hasn't agreed. But whatever. Okay. That's a strange way to promote it. But okay, cool. I hope it works.
Okay. And then the next one is if you guys are in the
sorry, go ahead with the next one.
Okay. If you guys are in the DMV area and if you know doctors, or if you're just a civilian that is really angry what's going on in Palestine, Doctors Against Genocide, they're holding a big initiative to get lobbyers down in DC for a big lobbying day on the 15th. And that's like they want 1,000 doctors there to show representatives that we are against kind of the assault on healthcare facilities, but also just the genocide that's happening in Palestine. So those are some events that are taking place that if you guys are interested in kind of getting out there and engaged, that's the way to do it.
April 15th. Well, I've already done my taxes, so maybe I can.
That's true. I know it's a crazy day to. But all the more reason to be upset with your government because they keep sending money to Israel to do this.
And I know Ryan has done his taxes too. We happened to talk about it.
I did. Thank God.
Not that it was a happy occasion, but I'm sure you're happy that it's done.
Oh, I'm happy it's done.
How about you, Morgan? Have you done your taxes yet?
Yeah.
All right. Big finance.
Wow, she's having a little bit of an issue, a moment about that.
I guess. All right. Morgan, anything else going on in your life? Well, how about beauty salon appointments? Anything else you want to promote? Pedicures?
No.
All right. Very good.
All right.
Say hi to Mary for me.
All right. I will. I certainly will.
All right. All right, Ryan and Morgan, thank you. And August 17th is registered for the debate. Yeah. Hopefully he didn't register on August 17th. No, his name is August 17th.
Oh, sorry.
Hopefully he isn't asked to be in the debate, but I don't know. Maybe that'll be good.
Well, if it's on August 17th, he'd be the ideal person.
Yeah.
All right, let's book him as a guest sometime to do a deep dive into why his handle is August 17th.
Sounds good. Yes.
The wine bar winners. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care. Yep. Stay sweet. Join us Tuesday night at 7 for Probable Cause, and then you can switch over at 8 to Morgan's new show with the lovely Ellen Jimerson. Do I remember Ellen? Of course I remember Ellen.
I was talking more to the people that are watching.
Our audience.
And I've noticed that she's been watching our shows and commenting and stuff. Yeah. All right. Yep. All right. Take care, everybody. Nighty night.
Good night.